Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode is Change Your Mindset, Change the World with Ross Tomkins. We talk about thinking bigger, working on your business versus working in your business, what masterminding is, and the effect it has on business growth.
Ross qualified from Teesside University in 1999 and is an experienced MSK physiotherapist and expert in workplace health and ergonomics. Although still based in the northeast of England, he has a global focus and a vision of improving health and well-being worldwide. He started Therapy Direct Healthcare in 2006, became involved with remote medical services and virtual physiotherapy in 2014, and co-founded a unique health and fitness retreat business, CF360, in 2017. His new passion is helping therapists worldwide to create successful businesses whilst improving their quality of life and working less hours. He is a father of two, and away from work he loves all things outdoors and regularly enjoys hiking, biking, whitewater rafting or canyoning, and for those adrenaline-fueled moments, golf. If his wife would let him, he'd add skydiving to the list, but for the moment at least it's been vetoed.
Thanks for joining us today, Ross. Perhaps we could start with understanding a bit about your journey, please.
Sure, thanks very much, James. I'm a physiotherapist by profession. That kind of started a bit by accident, really. Back at school, I was really passionate about sport, as a lot of physios, male physios in particular, tend to be. And I thought I was going to be a tennis coach. I ended up having quite sore knees, and I had physio for about 4 years in a row. In hindsight, I just had really bad physios, and they should have picked something up, which was quite basic at the very beginning. But I guess that's a different story. After a couple of years, they said, look, we don't really know what's causing your pain, but we think you're sincere. So have you considered doing something different? And I went, I know quite a lot about physio now, and it's pretty interesting.
Not to do it.
Still, yeah, which I didn't know that at the time. It's still kind of parallel to sport, so I think I'll do that. So I went off to university and did my training, discovered quite quickly that I did love it, and I thought I was going to go into the sporting world. The Tottenham job came up, and I'm a Spurs fan, after about 18 months. But by then, a few of my friends had already gone into the sporting world, and they all had failed marriages, and they never saw their friends or family because every weekend they were away. And I realised it was quite a difficult part of the profession to work in.
Yeah.
And so I went down the sports injury route, and I was learning about sporting hips, sporting ankles, shoulders, these sorts of problems. And I kind of had I call it like my epiphany moment, if you like, at the start of the new part of my life, where I realised that even if I became the best sports physio that I could be, most of my patients only did an hour of sport on a weekend. So how much influence was I really going to have over their life? And I realised that most of my patients went to work. In fact, we spend about a third of our life at work. So if I could understand workplace health, if I could understand how to make them more comfortable when they're in their working environment, that would give me a huge advantage. And in my head, that would make me a better physio. So I was really lucky that one of my first mentors in the NHS, they had a big occupational health department. So I called them up. I said, hey, Glenn, can I have a job? And he went, no problem, come on down.
That's nice.
Yeah, it worked out really, really well. And I went on lots of additional training. So I did my ergonomics training, my occupational health training, and found that I did actually absolutely love it. To influence such a large part of someone's life, I just found really rewarding. And I guess that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey from there, really, because I realised that we could, influence and touch a lot of people's lives by getting involved in this part of medicine.
Yeah.
And Therapy Direct was born out of that. So that started back in 2006. It was only me at the start, and like a lot of businesses, it grew because I was calling us we instead of I. And the first contract that I won was with PepsiCo, which was quite good. First one. And they pretty soon sort of came to me and said, we love what you're doing here. Can you look after one of our contracts in Scotland? And I went, absolutely no problem. I love that famous quote by Richard Branson where he says, just say yes to everything and then figure out how to do it.
Oh, yes.
So that's exactly what happened. And I found someone in Cooper, a lady called Louise, who I'm still in touch with now, even though we don't have that contract. And she came on board and looked after the staff there, and it kind of just continued to gather pace really, and slowly over the years got more contracts, started outsourcing more work, and today we're up to 32 members of staff, and we outsource about 8,000 appointments around the UK as well.
It's lots.
It is quite a lot, yeah, but luckily we've got a great back office team, and they make it all run smoothly.
Okay, so what prompted that move to doing it on your own?
I was always quite driven, quite entrepreneurial, never really liked working for other people. I only worked about 16 months in the NHS, and I had an absolutely fantastic mentor there, and she helped me rotate just around the musculoskeletal and neuro elements of the physio department. And eventually when she said, you're going to have to do care of the elderly or respiratory, I said, I think I'll leave. And she went, I thought you would. I've helped you as much as I can, but if I keep putting you on these rotations, I'm going to have a mutiny. The rest of the physios are going to be really unhappy.
You just get the sexy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess from there I went off and then into like sports injuries, but that was always self-employed. So I like the idea of kind of choosing my own destiny, I guess.
So within... Often, I don't know if is there a, what's the word I'm looking for? When we think about physiotherapy, and I often hear from friends, if I've said, I've gone for some physiotherapy, they often think it's for athletes, sports people getting paid to play a sport. But often there's a lot more to that. And so you've mentioned the workplace, and I think about some of the training I've had of what posture you should have, how you should look at your screen. We shouldn't be looking at our phones, looking down as we're
walking along the street.
My chiropractor would always say, look at everybody in the tube and in the metro, and look at their postures, looking down at either a book or a mobile phone, and just imagine all the back pain. Yeah, that I'm gonna have all these clients. It's great because so I'm rambling. So I'm going to get back to my question here. I'm doing an Eddie Izzard here, where I'll go around the subject and eventually get back to it. But so in the workplace, what are typical health concerns, problems, pains that people are experiencing?
Pretty much the same as in every other area, whether it's sport, workplace, or any kind of hobby you can come across. Really, most of the body can become uncomfortable depending on what you're doing. If you overdo something, whether it's football or a work-related activity, it can cause discomfort. Most of the research is coming out now, though, does suggest that the body is far stronger than we started to believe. And over sort of my career, we've gone sort of full circle, and there was this time where everyone was saying, if you look down at your phone for more than 5 minutes, then your head's really heavy and your neck's going to break, and it all got a bit...
Your head's going to fall off.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
We kind of catastrophized everything, and everyone was really scared. But when you look at the data now and you look at the research that's coming out, a huge percentage of people that have no pain at all have MRI findings to show they have disc bulges, degeneration, arthritis. Basically, the body's not indestructible. It does wear out, but that doesn't mean or guarantee you're going to have pain. As long as you keep yourself strong, healthy, put the right nutrition into your body, it can cope with most things, like reading a book on a tube and looking at your phone. Yeah, without your head falling off,
What happened again?
But so thankfully things are changing, and one of the big things actually that's coming out of that is the language we're using. So when I first started, it was quite common for people to come in and say, I've been to see my doctor, and he said my spine is crumbling, or my bones are touching each other, and this kind of horrible language, of course meant they didn't want to exercise. They're like, I'm just going to stay inside. I'm going to sit down because otherwise my back's going to turn to jelly and I'll probably fall over.
My legs will fall off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really scary when someone says that, my spine is crumbling. Some of that, of course, was their interpretation of what was told them, of the medical language, but also there was that language being used. And now that's starting to change, which is a really, really good thing, and we're being a lot more open and honest with people, which is easier to deal with. And actually, okay, so my body is innately strong. If I can still exercise, and if I do, I'll protect my joints. It won't reverse the aging process, but it'll certainly slow it down, and it doesn't have to mean I'm in pain every day.
No, that's interesting stuff.
And is there a change in mentality, I guess, not just individuals, but perhaps corporations, where it's rather than be reactive to something, there's a more proactive investment in health? And
we're starting to get there. In my experience, most companies say they want that, but not all of them do invest in it.
Yeah.
So we go through a lot of sort of tender processes, and in all of that they'll say, what are you going to do proactively? What can you do to prevent problems? We really want to, engage our staff, look after them, because ultimately that makes us more productive. But then once you start explaining, that will mean that the results are less tangible. We'll be doing a lot of education with people. They go, can you just treat someone instead and get them back to work quicker? But it is starting to change, and I do think it is turning. And within the next few years, certainly you'll see a lot more health and wellbeing agendas for the larger companies, and cascading down to the smaller ones. I think the really big thing is companies are starting to realise that occupational health isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Because if we look after our staff, it's a win-win for everybody. They have a healthier, happier life. They're more productive at work, so the business benefits. It just makes sense. But
it's showing the links, isn't it, and the business case for, well, actually you're losing X number of staff days per year at a cost of X to the business by being proactive. We've shown this company's actually reduced its absenteeism and workplace injuries, etc., by a certain amount. But I suppose it's often, I find upfront investment is such a difficult thing. It
definitely is. And it kind of comes down to who's involved in that conversation, because we can say to HR, if we can reduce your absence by 0.5%, that's going to mean you save £500,000. But then the tender goes in to the FD, and he goes, it's going to cost us £100,000. I'm not going to spend that. And no one's really having the conversation, say, well, actually, that's still a £400,000 saving. So, we're not really getting that full conversation yet. Well, that'll be the really powerful thing.
I think it happens as well in sort of, because obviously I'm a psychologist, so I go into organisations and help them select people, and it's they want me to fix the end of the problem, whereas the problem is at the beginning. Sometimes it's like, if we could only just sort of nail this further down the line to stop you hiring people that aren't necessarily the right people for your organisation, and then it's going to save you loads more money, but it's going to cost you X up front. And it's like, no, we'll just wait until it's a really big disaster and we've spent loads of fortunes, and it's kind of the horse is bolted.
Exactly the same. Exactly the same in workplace health as well, in the musculoskeletal point of view.
No, definitely. And the more progressive organisations are realising that, that mental health agenda, that kind of more holistic human, making sure that they're well. Because there's such a blurring now between work and life, isn't there? And I sent you an email at 7:00 last night. Why haven't you responded? Because I'm at home with my family.
Exactly. I think that's a really interesting topic, actually, because obviously a lot of people are talking about that, and you've got companies now banning emails from being sent, between 9 and 5. And you can certainly see why companies react like that, but to me that just isn't looking at the whole picture, really, because you've also got to take into account when are people most productive, and some people may be more productive at 6:00 in the morning, and I certainly am. So to say to me, don't send anyone within your own organisation an email until 9:00 would be detrimental to my output, I guess, during the day. It kind of comes down, in my opinion, really to empowering the people within the organisation to not look at their phone, and that's okay. But we certainly shouldn't be stopping people from sending emails if they want to.
No, there's so much fear around that, and it's kind of, you have to role model the behaviours that you want to see in your staff. So, if you say, well, I am productive between 6 and 9, and then I'm going to go off and do some sport or some other stuff, or read a book or go for a walk or whatever it is, and you're kind of saying, if that's that's when you're most productive, then, fill your beans. And managing those expectations and giving people permission and empowering them to make their own decisions, because there's so much fear. It's like, oh my God, you sent me an email at 6 o'clock. I'm absolutely going to have to get up at 6 o'clock and then respond to that email.
Yeah, it's all wrong, isn't it? So we're as flexible as we can be with everyone that works for us. So obviously, if there's a clinic being run, those are the hours. You can't change that because patients are coming in. But all of our staff will have time when they're working at home as well. And they can choose their hours there. So they might do a little bit in the morning, then go out, walk the dog, and then go and have a bit of lunch, come back, work a bit later. That's absolutely fine. We've got targets. As long as we're adhering to those, then it really doesn't matter when the work happens.
No, that's great. It's good to hear from an employer, though. Sometimes, no, you have to sit at your desk between 9 and 5. God,
we would be pretty hypocritical, wouldn't we? We'd be a terrible occupational health company if we said no.
You would be surprised.
9 to 5, that's it.
Yes. I was almost going to tell you a story about psychology practices, but I better not. I might have to edit this bit out. 21 minutes, Michelle. Something that you have to edit out.
But don't you think that's a definite trend, though, that as humans, well, we're all very different, and I've struggled personally in large corporates where it's you will eat your lunch at this time and you have an hour for that. But there are some days where I don't want to eat my lunch at 1 o'clock. Actually, I've been up since 5 this morning, had my breakfast at 6. So by 10 o'clock, I'm starving.
Yep.
Some days I might be on an absolute roll and I'm not hungry before 2 or 3 o'clock. God, look at the time's just flown by. And I think this element of flexibility really, when you are productive, giving the most back is a challenge for corporations, because if someone's in an office and environment, it's how do you give that flexibility to get the best out of people? But it's not really a question. It's more a reflection in the moment that
it shouldn't be hard, should it? In my opinion, it's just accepting that we are all different. We all have different colour eyes, different colour hair. Our bodies react in different ways. It shouldn't be a surprise that we need to eat dinner at different times or take different breaks. And as long as the work gets done, should it really matter? My opinion there is obviously a resounding it doesn't matter.
No. Okay, so that's interesting. So you went from being a hands-on practitioner, I suppose, into being a leader. So I'm not sure. Are you still physiotherapying?
No, I did 2 clinics in the last about 18 months, and that was because we had a holiday that wasn't covered. So I went down to Essex to cover one of the clinics down there. So about 2 years ago, I took the decision that I needed to be working on the business full time. At the time, I was still doing a day or sometimes 2 days a week. And I remember coming home from work one day and saying to my wife, Joanne, I've not been the best physio I could be today. The patient probably didn't know, but my mind was elsewhere. I was thinking about contract reviews, tenders that were coming up, contracts that had been sent out. So I came home and thought, I really have to concentrate on the business now, otherwise I'm not giving my best to the patients. And that was quite a difficult decision, because I always thought, I'm a physio, I love making people better. It's great when someone comes in pain and they leave and they're not. But I kind of reframed my thinking and thought, well, if I work on the business and we can grow the business, I can help more people indirectly. So although I don't still put my hands on people, I know that our organisation is helping people still, and we're helping more people, as we grow.
No, that's it. It's just it's a very interesting mind shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going from, I'm self-employed, I'm a really good psychologist, and now it's kind of, the business needs me to be a really good business leader, and I can get other psychologists to do the psychologying.
Yeah,
that's a word.
It is all to do with it. It is that mind shift of 100%. I'm firmly of the opinion, as we've got more involved in business, that the limiting factor in most businesses is the owner's mindset rather than anything else. I remember about that time, I was at the point in business which most business owners, I'm sure, will resonate with them. You want to clone yourself. You think, I'm so busy, I'm working every hour under the sun, I'm not seeing my family enough. If only I could clone myself, that would fix it. And I went to my very first Mastermind a couple of years ago, and was surrounded by some really successful, in my eyes, business people. And I sat there and said, if I could clone myself, I think my business would grow. And they didn't laugh in a malicious way, but it was
Totally.
wow, you've got a bit of growth to go, because actually if you cloned yourself, you would clone all of your weaknesses as well as your strengths. You would be in exactly the same situation but be a little bit bigger in business. Your problems would be bigger as well, and you'd probably have more stress in your life. And oh wow, okay. And that was, I guess, the first time where I started to realize it was mindset that was different. That's what had to change, rather than just dividing my time differently.
Yes, I was like, oh, time management. No, it's not always.
Exactly. Yeah. You do have to work smarter, and you've got to be aware that your energy plays a big difference, a big role. So lots of people say time is the most important thing, but actually I would argue energy is, because time is irrelevant if you can't use it efficiently. So we've got to look after our bodies. We've got to make sure we have the energy to utilize that time. And then how you do that then helps your business to grow.
No, that's really useful. So masterminding.
Masterminding was the start of, I guess, our business's real growth. So we'd grown steadily over 10 years, but then we've almost tripled in the last 2 years. And I put that down completely to masterminding, which if you've not come across it, it's been around for hundreds of years. And it's the process of more than one mind coming together to form a third, a mastermind. And I guess for most business owners, it can be quite lonely. You can't run your challenges past your spouse because they're scared, they're worried. What if the business fails? You can't tell your staff because they have the same worries. And someone said to me recently a really great thing, which was, people aren't against you, they're just for themselves.
Yep.
So you can't tell an employee, I might do this new thing at work, but it's got some risk to it, because they worry, and rightly so. So where do business owners go? And there's networking events everywhere, but they have no accountability, and you've just got people shoving business cards down your throat, and they want to sell to you. So I kind of came across the masterminding principle through a book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
We love that one.
It's great, isn't it? And I think most entrepreneurial business people will have read that, and he was the first person to coin the phrase a mastermind alliance.
It's amazing. It was written in sort of the early 30s, wasn't it?
It was like 1917 or something. I think his first kind of study went out, and he was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie to write the book. And he was tasked with interviewing 500 of the most successful people of that era to find out what made them tick, and see if there was like a secret sauce, almost, and you could educate people. But what people rarely actually talk about is over the time of him writing this book, he also interviewed 25,000 unsuccessful people, because he wanted to ensure what was going in the book wasn't just coincidence. So the dedication he showed to that was pretty incredible. And what he found was that all successful people had that peer group which motivated them, inspired them, and ultimately held them accountable. Because we all have great ideas, but if no one's there to hold you to account to them, they generally fall by the wayside, and people just don't act on them.
No, that's really it's interesting, and it's so fascinating to read that book and then look at all of this stuff that's been put into organisations now. The diversity agenda was talked about then. It's not new. The masterminding stuff. There's so much in there. I was like, oh crikey, this is kind of the new stuff that HR think they've just recently discovered. It's been around for a while.
Exactly. Yeah, without a doubt. So that kind of, like I say, it challenged me to kind of start thinking outside the box. I remember it again in one of the sort of first masterminds. Someone said, if you're looking to grow, why don't you just acquire another business? And I looked at him like he had two heads and went, I can't do that. We're not the right size yet. But he went, you'd be amazed. He said the simplest form of an acquisition is a merger. Companies do it all the time. No money changes hands at all. It's just two companies coming together. And once you deduplicate the staff, both companies grow. And I was like, I had never thought of that before. And I guess it was a bit of a game-changing moment for us, and we're in the middle of two acquisitions now, which should go through within the next couple of months, and that was all from being challenged, within that mastermind.
No, that's fascinating. So you've got a successful business, and you do lots of different things within that. So do you want to talk to us about that, and then we can talk about the new the new business.
Yeah. So as all this was happening, I kind of reflected on the 10 years it had taken me to grow steadily and realised that I was the typical accidental business owner that we see all the time. You have a passion for something, psychology, physio, carpentry, whatever it might be, and because you're good at it, people come and they want more work and the business grows. But then all of a sudden you're not a physio anymore. You are an accountant and you're a marketeer and you're a cleaner at the weekend, and you're everything that the business needs, but you're not taught that. You're not taught that at university.
No.
Typically, we're so driven by our primary profession that all of our training is around that. So I'd been on lots of occupational health courses, physio courses. I'd never been on a marketing course. And when I kind of looked at our model, and as I mentioned, we outsource a lot of work, and I looked around at the other physios around the UK as well that we worked with, and an awful lot of them were like me, accidental business owners, great medical professionals. But when you looked at the reports that were coming back and you looked at the processes they had in place, they had a lot of the same gaps in knowledge that I had. So I had an idea to bridge that gap. So I started something called the Advanced Health Group, which I first floated to our senior managers about 2 years ago. And it was the idea of bringing together clinical information, but also business acumen as well. So the sole traders, the small clinics out there could ask questions about marketing or about business or a clinical question as well. And I remember floating the idea to senior managers a little while ago, a couple of years ago, and one of the managers went, "Wow, if that had been there a year ago, Ross, I wouldn't be working for you." Because I closed my business because of exactly that. I didn't know where to go for all of that information. So we've been slowly growing that since then. Where the concept took a while to sort of nail down. We started a private Facebook group for clinicians around the UK about 4 months ago. We're up to 730 physios in there now,
Oh, wow.
which is great. And the content that flies around every single day, questions being asked from everything to where do I get a contract for a new employee to what accounting software should I use is pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I'm a part of a mastermind as well myself. It's the psychology practice accelerator, and it was a massive leap for me because it was at a point where I was a bit kind of low psychologically myself, and the business wasn't doing brilliantly, and it was lots of money to attend. But you saw something, the marketing totally spoke to me as the most aligned client, and it was just like, I'm going to have to just take a leap of faith. Let's agree to do it. Let's agree to pay monthly. Let's just get in, figure it out. And it's all about that marketing, all about that, setting yourself up as a business person, not just a psychologist. So it's very similar, I think, to what you're doing. Yeah,
exactly the same. Well, we kind of just let AHG or the Advanced Health Group sort of evolve really. So we had some quite big plans for it. We wanted to do a big event in London later this year and have world-class medical educators, but also brilliant and talented people from the business sector talking. So that was all to come. But as it sort of evolved, we started being approached and asked for continuing professional development. So we've got some courses in the works at the moment. And then people came to us and said, "Will you coach us? Will you mentor my growth?" We weren't ready for that really, but actually off the back of that, we've now started our own mastermind for physiotherapy and clinic owners around the UK. So we have an online one starting next month, and the interest in that has been phenomenal. I guess part of me wonders why I didn't think of that first, considering I've been involved with them. But so the appetite for that has been fantastic. So I'm really excited to start helping people grow their business. A lot of the concepts in that I mentioned before. So part of the Advanced Health Group was I also wrote a book called The Business of Health, Non-Clinical Skills, which I almost called They Don't Teach You at University, but ended up calling To Help You Accelerate or Grow Your Practice. And a lot of that will sort of be in the Mastermind. So it's the fact that the clinical stuff that we're taught at university is such a small part really of a patient getting better, and also almost irrelevant to your business growing. Because when you look around, you've got some amazingly full clinics with, when you look at it, not the best physio practitioners within there, but they're great at marketing. The patients absolutely love them, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's like that quote of the best known product. No, sorry, the best product never outsells the best known product.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. You can have the most amazing product, but if nobody knows about it, no one's going to use it, are they?
No. So you've kind of got a responsibility to become visible and known so that people can be helped by you as well.
Yes. Yeah, without a doubt. So that's what we kind of hope to accelerate really within the group. We want to sort of bring people on faster, I guess, than it took us. If we can give them some shortcuts and some processes and procedures that accelerate their growth, and I'd be really, really happy with that.
I'm finding this absolutely fascinating because my coach is doing exactly the same as what you're doing. She's writing a book about how to grow a successful psychology practice, and she does the Mastermind, and so it's really interesting.
Brilliant.
Sort of parallels. You're doing the same stuff but in a different field.
Fantastic. Well, it sounds like we should get together.
I know. It's like Wendy.
Yeah, 100%.
No, definitely.
Off the back of that, what we sort of realised was a lot of the stuff that we were teaching and I was being taught, and I guess what you've come across in your Mastermind can help any business owner. It's not just about psychology or physio. So we've started, me and a few friends, one of them's an international coach, travels around the world talking, and we've started a general mastermind here in the Northeast called the Domino Effect.
Yep.
So that's really, really exciting. So we've had 6 people sign up to that already, who are ready to take their business to the next level.
And so talk to me about that transition, because I used to only help psychologists to become better psychologists. So my coaching practice was all around the mentoring of other psychologists. And then you're kind of thinking, oh, well, there's loads of people that actually need my help. So I'm transitioning from only helping awesome psychologists to helping awesome humans.
Yep.
So it's fairly similar sort of transition, and it's kind of I can help everybody now. It's weird. It's that
mindset again, isn't it? Because we all evolve as people, and as we learn and we challenge ourselves, we push outside our comfort zone. We start realizing, we can help other practitioners, and then you start to realize that that transcends and you can help other people. But it's that kind of journey we go on, really. Last year I was invited by RTC to talk at their Scale Up Summit. So I was interviewed on stage and stood there and had to talk to general business owners about scaling their business. At the time, I guess I found it quite difficult, because inside I think I was still thinking, I'm just a physio. What am I doing here on stage talking to people?
That's the worst word in the English language, is just.
I know, but and although I guess we've been talking about that, it was still how I felt at the time. But since then, I've kind of again reframed it, got my head around it a little bit more, and thought actually, the likes of yourself, all of us in the room here, do have great knowledge to share, and we'll always be further behind certain people on the journey, but that by definition will also be further ahead than people. And if we can help them on their journey, I think that's what we're probably here for, really.
And when you think of the ripple of that, you help one person improve their practice. It is a ripple effect, isn't it? Where you're helping to create that movement of, it's not just the economy you're helping to grow, but this concept of great workplace occupational health by helping others to help others to help others. Yeah.
Oh, without a doubt. That ripple effect is absolutely huge. And again, when you mentioned it a few times, but to me it all comes down to that change in someone's mindset. So whether it's changing companies, organizations, how they think about their health and well-being, whether it's helping a particular business owner think about how they grow their business, it all comes down to them, really. It's not external factors that control us, it's what's going on inside. And if we can change that, then it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, change your mindset, change the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that.
No.
I'm going to use that.
Yeah, it's fine. We might call this podcast that as well.
That is really good.
A good one. Note to self.
Yeah, without a doubt. It was explained really simply to me quite recently, and someone said, imagine a continuum with 0 at one end and 10 at the other, and that continuum represents both your personal growth and also the size of a problem. If you're operating at a 1 and a problem of a 3 magnitude comes along, that looks, oh my God, it's really, really scary. How do I get past that? But if you grow yourself and your mindset to a 5, that 3, it's not so much of a problem anymore. And if you keep developing and you manage to ever get to a 10, whatever that might look like, you don't even notice a 3. It's just something that happens every day and you deal with it. So it's all to do with your growth and to how big a problem is.
No, that totally makes sense. So we're sat here at the, name drop, the NatWest Entrepreneur Accelerator. And I think the number one thing that they talk to us about is it's having a power up mindset. So it's all this growth mindset stuff. If you believe you can't, or you believe you can, you're right. I'll do the round.
That's really funny, because that actually is the quote of the very first chapter of my book.
Oh wow!
Henry Ford, wasn't it, who said it? And that's the very first quote, and that's what drove me to write a book. Because I thought, well, one thing's for sure, no one will ever read a book that I've written if I haven't written it.
Very true.
Yeah. so that kind of started the whole thing.
No, that totally makes sense. And does it kind of? I felt that since adopting that more growth mindset, I can do anything. I can't do everything, but I can do anything I want to do. It's kind of trickled down to my little boy as well.
Yeah.
So has it changed the way that you parent?
Has it changed how I parent? It's definitely, and I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, say it's changed how my wife views the world and parents, perhaps. Because I've always, as we talked about, I've always kind of had the same sort of personality. And although my mindset has changed, I guess it's always been there. So my parenting perhaps hasn't changed too much, but it certainly does rub off. Just last week, I went into my daughter's room as she was sort of supposedly getting ready for bed, but she was actually on a computer writing up some homework. And I said, what are you doing there, Izzy? She went, oh, these are my rules for life. Okay, what are you doing with those? And I'm going to tell them to my school friends tomorrow. And when I read them, they were the most profound, deep 11 messages that I could have possibly imagined. I mean, it took me 40 years to work out what she was writing down at 11. It was things like respect yourself, don't do what the crowd tell you to do, follow your dream. And I was like, my goodness. And I said as well, if you cut and pasted these from somewhere, and she was like, no, that's just what I think. And I was like, wow. Like my honestly, my heart was bursting. I had a little tear in my eye. I went to see Joanne and went, you've got absolutely no idea what our daughter's just done. It was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So I guess it does rub off.
No, that's amazing.
Future podcast guest.
I know. Get Oliver to interview him.
That'd be great.
I was desperate to do, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Isabel would love that, I think.
Let's get some kids in the interview.
Yeah, we'll get some teed up.
Oliver's best friend is fairly precocious, bless him, and he'd love it. So he'd be in charge, though, wouldn't he? So
we should do that.
We should. We'll put that in the diary.
Yeah. I bet there'd be loads of really good stuff.
I know. Yes, and we can edit all the nonsense out as well.
Yeah.
When they talk about Pokemon or Fortnite or...
Oh my goodness, yeah, Fortnite. There's a lot of that in my house.
Yeah, it's so painful.
It really is. They got banned this morning.
Did it?
Yeah.
Wow. It's just the weird dancing that they do.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? Why are you wiggling?
Can you do it? Can you floss?
No.
Have you tried? James? You a secret flosser?
I wouldn't be any good, I don't think. Not something, I need a bit more practice, I think.
Good job it's a podcast and not a video.
Before, yes.
Otherwise we'd all be trying.
We'll be getting requests for it now. We've just launched a YouTube channel, so there might be some requests on it for that.
Or just take a video of you flossing
We should
afterwards.
do
Put
that.
it on there.
Sometimes I can get it, another time my hips go the wrong way and I nearly trip myself over.
I think it's one of those things you can't think about. You just have to do it.
Yeah, it's a little bit like when you have to tap yourself on the head and rub your belly.
That's the one.
It feels like that.
That's just hilarious. Okay, so let's get back to the domino effect. So when does that start?
So the domino effect, we had a discovery day last week and our first mastermind is next month. We are we've had quite a lot of interest from all over the northeast. So we're looking to launch a second one the month after in Darlington down at Rockcliffe Hall.
That's like my favourite place in the world.
It's lovely, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I proposed.
Oh,
on one knee in the orangery.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Which is a good memory.
A little cry.
So I like that place as well. So we're going to go down there. That's where our second one, and we've just been approached by someone in Manchester that wants to run it for us in Manchester. So it looks like it's gathering momentum and going to grow quite quickly.
Yeah. So you're doing a franchise model. What's the...
That side of it we haven't 100% decided yet. It's still in negotiation, but it's a really powerful model, as you know.
Yeah.
Most masterminds are really quite expensive, and we've kept ours more affordable. So it's still a sizable investment.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people don't take it seriously, and won't attend, and don't use that information. But compared to some of them out there, it's really very reasonable.
No, that's great. So what kind of businesses are you looking for, kind of leaders?
It's less to do with size, I would suggest, and again, more to do with mindset. People can't come along if all they're interested to do is talk about their stuff and sell it. They will be asked to leave. Yeah. You've got to be open, you've got to be trusting, you've got to be willing to share, because it's only by doing that we can help everybody else within the group.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
it's quite exciting. My mastermind that I was in last week was a great example of how they work, really. So I go to Birmingham for mine, and the investment, both financially and time, is more than worth it. But the gentleman that runs that said almost nothing in the whole day, because everyone else was able to field the questions and help people, and that really is the strength in it. That there is no bottom, there is no weakest person in a mastermind, because we all have different strengths that can be used within the process.
And you're bringing all the different experiences, as we've discussed, that someone may have already encountered that, can give their advice, their perspective. And as you've said, that's what gives you tangible information to take action with.
Yeah.
Or even bounce ideas. It's
without a doubt. I mean, there's quite a common thing.
And what's the word I'm looking for? It's a safe environment. That's the word I'm looking for.
It's holding the space, isn't it?
It is, yeah, where people can talk and learn. Because quite a common thing that I heard over the years was, the best way to learn about business was to go bankrupt, and that taught you loads about business. But I would argue there that the best thing to do there is learn from someone who has gone bankrupt, or learn how to avoid it.
Yes.
So you don't have to go through that painful experience.
No.
So yeah, I think learning from people more senior than you, or with different experiences from you, is the way to go.
Definitely. So what's the future hold, or we just is there a grand plan, or we're just spotting opportunities?
Ultimately, actually, I would like to start our own charitable foundation. And teach people in parts of the world medicine who can't afford, or they're not geographically able to access that kind of knowledge and that kind of education. So that's where I would like to get to.
Excellent.
Is there did I see something that's more online based that would help with that spreading of the good content, good information that can help perhaps more remote parts of the world? Yeah,
so this is a really interesting part of medicine, and telehealth, which has been used in Australia and America for a number of years due to the sheer size of the places, is starting to filter through, and we're realising actually it's a really great cost-effective way of touching people's lives when they're in a lot of pain, they can't get into a clinic, or if they are quite remote. So we've done telehealth via the telephone for about 4 years, but just this year we've moved over to a video platform. So now you can have video physio, or in theory we could do video training with physiotherapists or medical students in other parts of the world as well, without ever having to jump on a plane.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is very clever, and one of the projects that we're looking at as well is to do with AI, and that is completely game-changing sort of moment within medicine. Really, a lot of the stuff that's going on, the machine is far more accurate at spotting early signs of disease and problems than the most senior of practitioners and physicians.
No, definitely. It's like what's that? There's a film, isn't there? There's a cartoon, and they make. It's like a big white thing, here's Michelle going weird. There's a big white thing that diagnoses medicine. It's one of those Pixar ones. Come on, James, help me.
Big Hero 6.
There we go.
I love that film.
So it's that kind of bringing that to life, isn't it?
It really is, yeah. He turns into a superhero, though, doesn't he? At the end, yeah. It's good, though.
No need to watch that again, because clearly I can't remember the name.
It's a bit like, I was thinking as well, with health issues, part of it is, say, quick diagnosis or taking action. And it reminded me of, I was in the startup scene in Stockholm in Sweden for a while. And there was a guy I met. He'd come up with a approach which was, if you think of a standard, you go to your doctor, got a bit of back pain. Okay, I'll refer you to somebody. You'll get an appointment in 2 or 3 weeks. Then you see somebody, so it might be a month before you actually start to take action, which might make the condition worse.
Absolutely.
So what he'd come up with, which is perhaps a bit more manageable in the Swedish health system, was you would go to your doctor, then you would have a teleconference with a specialist within whatever the problem was. Perhaps ear, nose and throat, maybe a back condition, need to speak to a physio. So you'd literally, while you're in your doctor's appointment, you would have a chat with the specialist. Here's what we've got, here are the symptoms presenting themselves. What do you reckon? Yeah, we need to get you a definite appointment. Let's get you in and sorted. So this element of video conferencing, and perhaps we might see more of that in the UK as well.
Yeah.
The speed of...
We do day one. So day one, we can speak to someone of an injury like that. So not there and then as that is, but one of the providers we work with, you can see a doctor within 6 minutes.
Wow.
Which is almost instantaneous. With our physio, it's sort of within 24 hours we can carry out a video consultation. Because you're quite right. If someone is fobbed off, for want of a better word, for a month, well, that back pain is likely to take at least another few weeks or months to go away because it's been deconditioned, they've got weaker, they've got stiffer. But if on day one someone says, actually, no, that sounds just like simple mechanical pain, the best thing you can do is move, have a talk about their diet, have a talk about what they can do at home, perhaps some medication. Within a few days, they're back to 100% again, and they didn't have to struggle for those months or 6 weeks afterwards.
And get somebody back to work quicker.
And get them back to work quicker, yeah.
Saving for the business.
Exactly.
Absolutely,
Simple,
yeah. It's a win-win.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the questions that we've neglected to ask recently, it's kind of sort of general final question, is all around, if you could go back to speak to sort of 20-year-old Ross, what advice would you give him?
Oh, wow. I would, without a doubt, how do I put this? I would want me to know that the possibilities were far bigger than I was thinking at the time. I think I was thinking too small. And each time I've kind of learned something new and evolved, what I think is possible has grown. Yeah. And it still is growing. So I wish I could have known that 20 years ago. What could we all have achieved if someone had told us that when we were 20? It's amazing, isn't it? But hopefully Isabel, my daughter, is ahead of me, so we'll see where she ends up.
That's amazing. Any further questions from you, James?
When we talk about, say, outside of work, I'm seeing more of a movement of say, taking time out, more retreat types of ways of not just going to Ibiza and dancing your heart out. That there's a definite trend of something that involves perhaps something more holistic, or so. I understand that you've got another venture.
Yes,
if you weren't busy enough.
we do. So a couple of years ago, one of our corporate clients said, what can you do that's different? Because all occupational health providers have exactly the same calendar. They all tell us about skin cancer when the summer's coming up, and they all tell us about work to walk day and back care awareness week. So we came up with a concept of a corporate health retreat where we would have physios, personal trainers, we'll do yoga, tai chi, massage, we'll take people hiking, biking, all sorts. So last year we went canyoning and whitewater rafting in Nepal, we went trekking in Bali, we went snowboarding and paddleboarding in Spain, and the whole purpose of it really is to show people what's possible and what else is out there, because it's very easy for all of us to get home after work, watch the telly and not push ourselves physically. But the idea here is to get them to try something, and then they continue it. So you can't really change someone's health or fitness in a week, but you can change their mindset again, and make them realise that, you know, doing yoga every week is going to have huge benefits on their health, or if they started walking at the weekends, you know, it's going to have an impact on all sorts of their lives. And that was really great, I guess, to add that element into work, because that's what I'm passionate about. I love travelling, love exercise. So I usually have something lined up. So the latest one is we're off to Russia to climb Mount Elbrus in July. Fortunately, I have a very supportive wife who lets me go off and do these adventures. Yeah, I haven't got her to join in with any of them yet. But,
maybe one day.
Maybe one day, yeah. So she's only ever told me I'm not allowed to do two things, and one's climb Mount Everest, and the other one is to learn how to skydive, which is disappointing because I've done 2 tandems and loved it.
No, definitely.
I keep telling her you're more likely to get, you know, run over crossing the road, but she's not having it.
You're more likely to kill yourself wearing novelty slippers,
That's
walking
a good
downstairs.
One.
I remember a statistic a statistic of that. It was
Brilliant.
on some program, some documentary. So.
Yeah, they're ridiculous ways to die. Yeah.
I need you to have a chat with Joanne.
Don't do it, because you're climbing Mount Everest and skydiving, base jumping.
You almost have to come up with a retreat that's in line with something she would enjoy and be passionate about, or snorkeling in the Seychelles, or or something.
That's a good
I'll
idea.
come along to that one.
Yeah, and we're going home via the Himalayas.
Oopsie daisies, we've just gone to base.
I'm only going to base camp 1. You know, I'm not climbing the whole mountain.
While we're here, it's only another 3 kilometres upwards.
Oh, crikey Moses.
Maybe one day.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Rightio, so thank you ever so much.
It's been a pleasure.
To talk to us, and we've learnt loads and had a lovely discussion, so thank you.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So there's obviously lots of things we've talked about: Therapy Direct, the domino effect, whether you've got your own practice, the retreats. What's the best way someone can find out a bit more information?
Therapy Direct is probably it still is our core business, and the idea is that the other businesses will circle around it in a health ecosystem, where all of them have synergies with the other. So you get a lot of information on there.
Awesome, and then we'll put all your links to bits and pieces in the show notes as well, so people can.
Brilliant, yeah, that'd be great. Always happy to chat to anybody.
Marvellous.
Great.
Thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Ross. Thanks. Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode, when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.